everyone and welcome back. If you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Daniela and I share content about learning and becoming fluent in English. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the most important, if not the most important quality when it comes to learning English and becoming a confident speaker. And this is resilience. First, let me tell you a story to better illustrate what resilience is. Even though this particular story is connected to sports, I'm sharing it with you because building resilience is salient for language learning as well. Then I'll give you tips on how you can build resilience and become a bold English speaker. Some of you might not know, but I am a tennis lover. Although I don't play tennis, I love watching it. There is nothing better than watching two world-class athletes being on the verge of their physical capabilities and not giving up. But a few years ago, during the Paribas Open tennis tournament, the former world number one Naomi Osaka was brought to tears by a heckler. While she was playing, he yelled, "Naomi, you suck." As a result, she started crying and ended up losing the game. Osaka was dealing with some mental health issues at the time, but many were still surprised by her reaction. People expected a top athlete like her to be more resilient. But at that time, she wasn't Naomi Osaka, the top tennis player who once ranked number one. She was just Naomi, a vulnerable human being who couldn't hold back her tears after a mean comment. The next day, I saw articles where some of her colleagues, other world-famous tennis players, commented on Naomi's reaction. They felt sorry for her, but they also said that she should learn how to deal with such situations. In a nutshell, the message was that she needed to build resilience and be ready to cope with adversities. This incident made me think about resilience and its role in learning a foreign language. Resilience is defined as the ability to bounce back after a challenge or a difficult time. And resilience in learning is the willingness to take on challenges and to risk making mistakes in order to reach a goal. When it comes to learning English, many people are afraid of making mistakes. In fact, the fear of making a grammatical, vocabulary, or pronunciation mistake is what stifles English learners the most. This is not just because non-native speakers are afraid that they will be misunderstood. This is because many of them dread the feeling of being excluded, of being treated like an outsider. But according to a study, what differentiates resilient learners from the rest is the ability to resist educational exclusion. That is, these learners are not afraid of not being fully included. They're absolutely comfortable to be in the position of the semi-outsider. As Dr. Elizabeth Chapman Hoult describes it in her book, resilient adult learners are able to recognize, withstand, and negotiate the tension between inclusion and exclusion. In other words, resilient adult learners are not afraid to be different, to look different, to sound different, and to make mistakes. They also don't look at previous failures as devastating, but use them as lessons to learn from. By the way, I'll leave the links to all the studies and the book I mentioned in this video in the description box below. So, how do we become resilient? Is resilience a talent that you're born with and either have it or don't have it? Turns out it's a skill that can be learned. It comes and goes throughout a person's lifetime. There are certain situations when we find ourselves strong and resilient, while in other situations we find it hard to cope. But because resilience can be developed, we can focus on what to do to build it up. Resilience is extremely important when we learn a foreign language. A study following a group of Turkish students who were preparing to be English teachers found out that more resilient students overcame language challenges faster. Most of the students in the beginning felt frustrated with their traditional language instruction because it was focused too much on grammar and memorizing vocabulary. They're also unhappy because of the lack of speaking opportunities. However, more resilient students found ways to change their language learning experience. Some of these factors included autonomy, which is taking things into their own hands, problem-solving skills, positive emotions, and peer support. The question is, how can you build resilience and become a fearless communicator in English? Let's look at the 4 factors that help the students from the study to build resilience and see how you can incorporate them into your own English learning process. The first one is autonomy. Because the students from the study had been unhappy with their traditional English classes that were focused just on grammar and memorizing words, at some point they decided to take things into their own hands. That is, they realized that they have to find ways to use English outside of class. Some said that they played video games and watched YouTube. Others watched TED Talks and joined online conversation groups in English. One student in particular said that she'd watched a lot of YouTube videos about makeup, which was her biggest hobby, and that's how she had learned many new words. You can also take your English learning into your own hands. I often hear students complaining about how much they hate grammar and how hard it is for them to remember words. It's true that it feels grueling to drill grammar and individual words without context, but you can watch videos on topics that interest you. You can also read, journal, and speak to others in English. If you don't live in an English-speaking country, you can join an online speaking club and practice. For example, you can join my free speaking club where you'll meet incredible people from all over the world who come to practice their speaking skills. I'll leave the link to sign up in the description box. The second factor that helps students learn English is creativity. Rather than focusing on the shortcomings of the traditional English classes, they try to find more creative ways to learn. Some of them made their own learning materials such as posters, flashcards, and games. Others practiced a speech in front of the mirror. You can also be creative in your learning process. For example, when I first came to the US, I watched some of my favorite TV shows, as back then there was no YouTube yet, and imitated what I heard. I repeated phrases and sentences in the way I heard them. Even if I didn't know words, I tried to imitate the sounds. Now there are many more sources on the internet. You can find videos on a topic you're interested in, but don't just passively watch. You can imitate or shadow the speaker. You will be surprised how much this method helps. I'll leave a link to my shadowing video series in the description box. When you learn a new word, always put it in a phrase or a sentence. This way, you'll understand and remember it better. You can use Youglish for many examples on how a particular word is used in context. Youglish is a great source. Another factor mentioned by the students from the study was creating positive emotions. The most resilient students stated that positive emotions made them more self-confident and created positive attitudes towards English. Even if they faced difficulties, they didn't lose hope. They were determined to succeed in learning English. Keeping a positive attitude when you struggle with English is easier said than done. But you can try to see the positive even in a difficult situation. When I worked at the front desk of a Marriott hotel, there were still many words that I didn't know. Sometimes I was so frustrated that I wanted to cry or quit my job. But eventually, I started joking to make myself feel better. I remember when a guest of the hotel once asked me about what we had in the workout room, and I didn't know the names of all these machines. I joked with him that there was a TV in the room. Everyone around, including me, burst out laughing. The thing is, beating yourself up for not knowing everything won't help you. Try to create positive situations and feelings, and you will feel more fluent sooner. Last but not least is having peer support. Receiving help from family and friends is an important factor in learning. The students from the study reported relying on their friends' help when they couldn't complete a task on their own. One student, for example, explained that his teacher had asked him to write an essay, but he didn't know how to do it. Then he turned to his friends for help and they shared their notes with him. I remember when back in college, a Russian classmate of mine received a very low grade on her English assignment. She asked the professor to meet with her and explain what she'd done wrong. The professor told her that he could meet her the following day, but she didn't have much time. She only had one afternoon to rewrite her essay. Then she asked me for help. After I gave her a few directions, she resubmitted it and got an A. Life is always easier when you have social support. Don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. If none of your family members or friends is learning English, find a community online. There are plenty of people out there who are in the same situation and would love to connect. Now I'd love to learn about what you do to learn English. If you found out something that helps you, please share it in the comment section below. Your share might help someone else. If this video has inspired you to build resilience and find different ways to improve your English, please click on the like button and subscribe to my channel if you're not a subscriber yet. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.